Hey YouTube, so I just want to talk about this. A life without God is very dangerous. A life without God is very miserable. You see, guys, oftentimes people they live life without God and they end up wondering why stuff happens to them. They end up wondering why they go through so much chaos. They wonder why problems come. Many people they watch the news and they see all these people in the news getting attacked, getting beat up, getting all of a sudden they end up getting shot and all that. Let me tell you something, guys. A lot of times when you see stuff happen to people, it's because they're living life without God. You see, a life without God will always lead to destruction. You see, when you live in life without God, like anything could happen to you. Because you don't have the protection of the Most High God around you. You don't have the hedge of protection. His angels not encamped around you. So it's like you live in life on the edge. You live in a life of risk. You could step outside, almost anything could happen to you. You're not guaranteed to come back. And of course, for a believer, you're not guaranteed because the Bible says tomorrow's not promised to nobody. But at least when you're under God, God can send his angels to encamp around you. The presence of God can surround you to where he can protect you from danger. He can direct you. He can tell you don't go here or don't go there. He can tell you through dreams. He'll show you in dreams to stay away from this person, stay away from this place. But you see, for people who don't want God and don't have God, they don't get that type of warning. That's how many times many people just go outside and stuff happens to them and they don't even know what hit them. Because when you live in life without God, you live in a risky life. You live in life to where anything can happen to you. You're open for anything. You're open for attacks. You're open for the enemy to just come in and destroy you. It's a miserable life. You see so many people walk around society nowadays. You see so many people they walk around angry, bitter, depressed. You see some people you even say hi to them or good morning or good afternoon or good evening. Half the time they don't even respond. Sometimes they be looking at you like you're crazy. Okay, guys, you see, the reason why many people are going through that in life, the reason why many people are unhappy, you know why? Because they did not follow God's will for their lives. They did not follow after the plan that God had for them. They want to do what they want to do. They want to go down the path they want to go down. A life without God, you will always lose in the end. I don't care who you are. I don't care how rich you are, how much money you got, how many friends you got, what type of car you drive. You will always lose in the end. You see all this stuff happening even with many celebrities. They got all this money, but many of them are unhappy. A life without God will always be miserable. It's like in life, you're just going down a path, you even know where you're going. It's like you're going in circles. You don't even know where to go. I see so many people who live life. Every person I've seen who rejected God, who lived a life without God, they always failed. They end up having a life that was not desirable. They end up being miserable. I've yet to see one person. I'm talking about even one. I've never seen one person live a life without God and be happy. They always end up failing. They always end up going through problems and chaos. And that's the God's honest truth. You cannot live a life without God and expect happiness. People in the world be talking about, oh, I want to get money, I'm going to be happy. When I get this person, I'm going to be happy. When I get this relationship, when I get this friend, it's going to be happy. You could get all that stuff and still be miserable. You could get all that stuff and still feel empty inside. You know why? Because you ain't got God in your life. You ain't got the Holy Spirit in you. That's why you can have all that stuff and still feel angry, still feel bitter, still feel depressed. Some of the angriest people, some of the most depressed people you ever meet are people who got money. They got the money, but they're not happy. Imagine that. And money make you so happy, then why you got all that money? Why you got all those blessings, that car and that house, and you still feel lonely? You still feel angry. You're still bitter. You see what I'm saying? So guys, a life without God is not the type of life that you want to desire. It's like you're going life and you're going in a circle. It's like you're going in a path, you don't even know where you're going down. It's like you're riding a train, you don't even know where the train ends. You're just going and going. I see so many people who live lives without God, they don't even know what they're doing. I see people moving from this place to this place to this place. This person moved from here to New York, then they moved to Tampa, then they moved to Arizona, then they moved to Nebraska, then they want to move out of the country, they want to come back in the country. They're confused. You know why? Because they live a life without God. They don't even know what path to go down. You got men, they want to date this woman. Then after a couple months, they want to date this woman. Then after a couple months, they fail. They want to date this woman. They want to go here and date this woman. Then they want to go here and date this woman. They all end up failing. Same thing with these women who want to date these men. These women want to date these men over here. She want to date this man down here. She want to date this man over here. A couple months later, she got a new man. Next year, she got a new man. Next year, she got a new man. It's like you don't even know what you're doing. Every second you got a new man. You don't even know what you're doing with your life. You're just going in circles. You don't even know where you're heading. You got people who are working all these type of different jobs. One moment you are at Walmart, next moment you are at Target, next moment you are at McDonald's. You leave this job after a couple months. You go down to another job, leave after a couple months. You go to another job, leave after a couple months. You go to another job, leave after a couple months. You don't even know what you're doing with your own life. You don't even know where you're heading. You don't even know what path you're going down. You're confused. You're lost. You don't know where you're going. You don't know what to do with your life. You just walk around angry and bitter, thinking that life is not favoring you, thinking that life is out to get you. Life is not out to get you. What problem is you're not obeying God. Problem is you're not following God's will for your life. If you was following God's will for your life, you would have a much better, happier. You would have a happier life. You would have a happier path. If you are following God's ordained path, His goals and His plans for your life, you'll be much happier in life because you'll know where you're heading. You got all these people, they're going in circles. Yeah, I see it all the time. People make the same mistakes for years. I'm talking about, okay, we all human. We all make mistakes. We all mess up. We have made bad choices. Probably, we made bad choices at least one time in our life. But you got so many people to where it's a constant thing for them. It's a revolving door. They make one bad choice. They make the same choice again next year. Then the same choice again next year. Then the same choice again next year. Some people it's even a couple of days. They made one mistake. They go back and make the next mistake the next day. They go back and make the next mistake again. They go back and make the next mistake again. They never learn. For example, so are you men. You date this woman, she got these characteristics about her, she got all these red flags, you ignore them, she ends up hurting you. Then you go and date another woman with the same characteristics, she hurts you. Then you go and date another woman with the same characteristics, she hurts you. You just keep going and going and going. Next thing you know, you end up having bitterness towards women. When it's not even women as a whole, that's the problem. It's those select group that you keep dealing with. But you see, you're not learning from your mistakes. You know why? You're going down your own path. Same thing with a lot of you women going after these men. You got women talk about they want to date this man. The man has certain characteristics. He has red flags. She ignores it. He ends up hurting her. Then she goes towards another man. He ends up doing the same thing. He ends up hurting her. Then she goes towards another man. He ends up hurting her and doing her dirty. They keep going and going and going. People never learn. You see, when you don't have God, you never learn. You just keep going through a revolving door. Just keep going in a circle. You got people who've been going in a circle with their life for over 20 years. I'm talking about they've been making the same mistakes from their 20s, and now they're in their 40s, 50s, 60s. I'm just looking at them like, you should have been learned by now. You was a grown adult. Okay, you was in your 20s. You were young. You made you made a mistake when you're young. But you should be learning and growing as a person. You should not be making the same mistakes you made that when you were 20 years old. You should not be 60 years old still making the same mistakes that you made when you were 25 years old. You should have been learned from that. You should have been moved on. You got people to where they do this all the time. Just go in a circle, go in a circle, go in a circle. You don't see no evolution. You got some people who are still stuck in the same mentality since they were 19 and 20 years old, and they're in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. You're not obeying God. You're not going down God's path. You're living life how you want. And since you want to live life how you want, you're going to get what comes with that. And you see, whatever comes with that is all going to be in you. Because since you're not obeying God, you ain't got that protection around you. So you could just head outside and boom, anything could happen to you. See, it's all the time. You got these people talking about, oh, well, God allowed this to happen. Oh, if God's rule out, He allowed this to happen. Last time I checked, God gave you free will. And your free will comes with consequences. Whether they're good or bad. The Bible makes it clear every person shall reap what they sow. So when you live life on your terms, the choices that you make can either bring goodness to your life or they could bring bad. For example, if you're a man, if you're dealing with girls who are from the streets and girls who are gangsters, what do you think's gonna happen to you? They could set you up to get robbed and all types of stuff. You're gonna end up suffering the consequences because you're not following God. You're going down your own path, so you're gonna reap the consequences. Then you want to talk about, oh, if God's rule out, He allowed this to happen. You allowed that to happen. That's your choices that you allowed. Same thing with all these women, some of these women, they want to date some of these men who are thugs, and they're gangsters, and they're drug dealers. Then they end up getting mad and angry. They end up getting sad and shocked when the man starts beating on her, when he starts abusing her, when he starts treating her any type of way, start cheating on her. What do you expect? Look at the man that you're dealing with. The man not no God-fearing man. The man is a drug dealer. He's a gang member. He is an extortioner. He robs people. You expect them? You people who are in that lifestyle, they have no morals. So what do you expect? You expect goodness to come out of it? You expect the favor of God to come out of it? Most definitely not. That's not how this works. Obey God. Life without God, you will never win. I've never seen that person live a life without God and win. They've all failed. They've all gotten depressed. They've all gotten angry. And you know what the funny thing is with many of these people? Many of these people, they end up running to God's people after when their life is coming to an end. Many people don't want to waste time in their 20s, 30s, 40s, living for a world. We spend all that time in the world. Then when they're in their 50s, they want to try and run to God now, after they're messed up with a whole bunch of choices. They could have been gave the life to God when they were 17, 18, 19, 20. But they would talk about they want to be young and have fun. They want to do this. I want to live my best life. Well, you lived your best life according to the world, and look where it got you. A life of nothing. A life of bitterness, anger, a life of bad choices, a life to where you never won. Life, you got these people talk about they living their best life. Next thing you know, a woman ends up with like 9 kids by 6 different men. Man talk about he living his best life. He ends up with like 4 kids. He ended up with like 12 kids by 6 different women. Looks to me like you ain't living your best life. Look like you failed. You got all that baby drama. You got all that baby mama drama, baby daddy drama. Then you want to try and talk about you living your best life. There ain't no best life you living. Because if you were following your God's path, you would have supplied with the right spouse. And then you would only had one person in your life, and that you guys would have been in a happy and peaceful family. And you guys could all had kids by the same person. But you see, that's what the world gets many people. People talk about they living their best life. You ain't living your best life. If you're not living your life for God, you ain't living no best life. You living your worst life. You live in a life of a bad choice. You live in a life to where anything could happen to you. So guys, just don't get caught up with all this world, because the world will have you make it look like following God's boring. People be talking about, oh, I don't want to come into camp family, it's too boring, that God lifestyle too boring. Next thing you know, many of these same people, they come running to God's people years down the line after their life fails them, after they end up reaping their consequences, after they end up reaping what they sow. They want to come run to God's people now, talk about, please help me. You could have been gotten the help years ago, but you see, you were not thinking ahead. You are not thinking ahead, and since you weren't thinking ahead, now look, you will suffer the consequences. Guys, just please be smart. Be smart. God gave you one life, one shot. And you see, the life that God gave you, you only get one chance, and you see, this time on earth, we want to make sure that it counts. You see, guys, even if God, let's say God gives you 80, 90, and 100 years on this planet, guys, you don't want to live all those years making bad choices. That's a miserable life to live. You got so many people to when they're 60, 70, and 80. They look back in their life, they see nothing but bad choices. Many people look back in their life and they see nothing but regret. You got people looking back in their life and say, man, I should never did that. I should never been with that person. That person was destructive. I can't believe I can't believe I did all of that. Man, I really came to nothing in life. You got some people to where they wasted all their time on earth to where they have nothing left when they have nothing left when they get older. Many people, when they spend all that time living for a world, they hit 60 and 70. They still in the projects. They still ain't moved on. They still ain't get their own house. Still ain't get a job. Still ain't get their own business. Still ain't get their own car. They just stuck. They have not progressed. When you're not with God, when you're not living life for God, you will stay stuck. You will stay stagnant. You won't be progressing. And you see, not progressing in life is one of the worst things. That means you're not moving on. That means you're not getting smarter. And you see, when you're not getting smarter, the devil loves that. Because Satan does not like an intelligent man. He loves when you're foolish and you talk about you living your best life, you want to live for a world. Because he knows that you're going to end up failing. He knows that he could come and destroy you. That's why Satan sits back and laugh at many people. I could see Satan in the spirit realm laugh at many people. Talk about they living their best life. And the sad thing is, Jesus, when he sits on the throne, all he could probably do is just shake his head like, man, I create humans and look at their foolishness many of them do. Guys, how does this message be a blessing unto you? And just please, make smart choices with your life. Take care.